Hi,
Hi.
uh, my name is Susmita Dasgupta. I'm a tea artist, and welcome to my tea talk with Tea with Susmita.
Thank you for inviting me to this tea talk. Although I'm not that I'm not very fond of tea, but I mean I have to have my tea every morning and in the late afternoon. So that is mandatory. So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. It is only called tea talk. You could
Hmm.
be wine connoisseur also. It doesn't really matter.
Okay.
All right. Before I begin, let me just give a brief introduction about yourself so that people know who am I talking to. Today I'm talking to Kaushik Shankar Das. He is from Bangladesh and he started his career with BBC in London, then moved to Dhaka and worked with Daily Star, which is one of the most highly circulated newspaper, as assistant editor, and now is a very popular, well-known filmmaker. So welcome, Kaushik, formally
Thank you. Thank you,
to the
Sushmita.
tea talk. Yeah.
Thank you.
Uh, Let me first ask you something about Bangladesh. Not many people in India actually knows anything about Bangladesh other than that they are our neighboring countries. But if I was going through some stats about Bangladesh, and it's like there you are actually in one of the, I would say, in one of the most happening time in Bangladesh in terms of GDP growth rate and the kind of development things that are happening,
Hmm.
the improvement in the ICT sectors, things like that. So how is life for common Bangladeshi people right now in Bangladesh? What are the things happening?
Well, first of all, I would like to say that it's a bit pity that the Indians actually don't know much about Bangladesh, whereas it's exactly the opposite in Bangladesh. We know practically everything about India. It's this is a kind of a thing that's been going on for years. I mean, Indians actually know about the War of Liberation in 1971, when the East Pakistan and West Pakistan were sort of East Pakistan was dissolved, and with the help of Indian Army, Bangladesh was created. That much Indians know, but after 71, somehow there is a lack of knowledge, or there is a lack of interest, which actually when it started happening, I think after the assassination of the founding president of Bangladesh, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, in 1975. Somehow, we've had army rules ever since then, till about 1991. We had martial laws, we had martial law rulers, we had army rules, we had emergencies, all sorts of things. Basically, army was running the show everywhere in the country. So that kind of put Bangladesh into the backstage. People, it also sort of hampered in terms of development, in terms of, people's involvement with the country's progress or development, or any kind of work that was happening. As you can well imagine, big corruption was going on at that time. And also, added to that was the natural disasters, which we are famous
Mm.
for. We have been
Every
famous
year.
for
Yes,
always, almost
yes.
every year. And everything put together, Bangladesh was actually not in a very good position until 1991, when the first ever, we call it the first ever democratic election took place, and a real political party came into power after 1975. I'm not talking. I'm actually. I'm not taking the period between 71 and 75 into account, because that was a different era altogether. So from 91 onwards, we've had the main political parties in power, one after another. And what actually happened was, because of that lack of development process, or the lack of uh, since the rulers were the army, who only thought about themselves when it came to sort of do something about for the country, there was nothing. So we kind of like lagged behind for at least 17 to 18 years. So it took a lot of time. It took a much longer time to bridge that gap of 17 to 18 years, because we started everything very late. in terms of like infrastructural development, educational development, and all sorts of things, even in the cultural field, that is. So, that kind of put us into a stage where we could see the rest of the world or even our neighboring countries going forward, doing a lot of things that maybe we could have done too. We could actually see that we are lagging behind in a great way, and that kind of like creeped into people's minds, and people started feeling a bit inferior in Bangladesh, that if they can do it, why can't we? So, and when the open market economy started all over the world, and that's when Bangladesh actually got hold of everything. And the subsequent governments ever since then have been trying to encourage the foreigners, the foreign investors and everything. And Bangladesh has been one of the largest, one of the largest industries of ready-made garments. And also Bangladesh has had the largest number of personnel involved in United Nations peacekeeping forces. So these kind, and also, and when it came to boosting the morale, we have had the cricket team, which did excellently well in the last 5-6 years. So, all things put together, people started to turn around, and they actually started feeling like, well, we are not one of those countries which Henry Kissinger, the foreign minister of America in 1975, called us, and what was that? Empty basket, bottomless basket. Sorry, we were called a bottomless basket. So we started feeling a bit good about ourselves since 2000, 2001. And gradually, it started getting better and better and better. So now we have a life where, which is exactly, there has been a lot of, I would call it a criticism, but a lot of talk about how Dhaka was projected in a film, in a Netflix film called Extraction. I don't know whether you've heard about it or not. Yeah, there was a lot of criticisms about it because Dhaka was shown as one of those Mexican, South American, drug affected.
I don't think any Bengali,
countries.
wherever they are, this side, that side, did like that movie because of that. Yeah.
And basically, Dhaka is at this moment exactly the opposite of what they had shown in the movie. I mean, I'm just talking about the razzmatazz of the whole thing. When you come to Dhaka, it's very there are lots of lies, there are lots of people, there are lots of like foreign cars and big roads. You've been to Dhaka yourself, so you saw the way Dhaka actually operates. I'm not saying that we are the best city in the world, which we are not, but one of the best cities. That is also we are not in South Asia. But people actually do want to feel good about themselves in Bangladesh now, which we didn't earlier, because we really didn't have anything to be proud of or anything to actually tell the world that this is what we can do, or and also, I mean, we feel really good about it when we hear the Western media in their discussions when there is a natural disaster sort of a thing happening in the Western countries. They actually give example of Bangladesh. How much the preparedness, the kind of preparedness that we have actually achieved over the years is an example to follow, and that's what they say. So maybe it took time. As I said before, we lagged behind in a great deal because of various political and different reasons. And it's we're getting there, but I think it's also going to take a lot longer time to breach that gap.
It's the same thing for India also. When Western media, movie, Hollywood, they showcase India, it's always like that yellow filter.
Exactly. Yellow filter. But it was so funny. I mean, I kept telling people that come on, it's a movie, it's a Netflix movie, it's one of those Hollywood blockbusters. You can't take those things seriously. Come on. But they were actually using the real names. They were using Dhaka, they were using the name Dhaka, Bangladesh, India, Bombay. So when you're actually using real names, you have to show a little bit of reality.
Yeah, I think that has still not changed. Let's hope.
So I would request your guests not to associate Dhaka or Bangladesh with that movie.
Yeah, great. Yes, of course. I would agree with that. I have been to Dhaka several times, so I would not agree with that. Yeah. Okay, so moving on, you went to London to study architecture, right? And
Yeah.
then you joined BBC. Then you
Mm,
moved back to Dhaka. You worked with BBC for some time. Then you joined, one of the largest circulated newspaper daily, and now you are into filmmaking. So you have worn a lot of hats. You have worn a lot of hats. So how has that been that kind of your journey? How was that? How would how do you feel about it if you
I mean,
reflect back?
I have. Well, I mean, I think, I have a very bad habit of concentrating on one particular thing for a long time, for a long period of time. I get very bored easily with anything and everything. That is my very bad habit, I would say. Yeah, I went to London to study architecture because that's what I always wanted to do. I wanted to study. I wanted to be an architect. It was a childhood dream. And I got admission in a college in London. I went there. And when I was studying there, I was doing my honors. I found it to be extremely hard. I mean, it's not an easy subject at all. It's very interesting,
Mm,
very exciting, very sort of. It's not one of those. This you do the maths, you do the equations, you do this, you do that. It's a different thing. You're creating something new, and I have been a creative person all my life, so it was good. It was nice, exciting, but I actually couldn't take the hard work. I mean, it was kind of really getting on to my nerves after a certain while. And after finishing my honors, I was confused whether I wanted to continue with that or whether I really wanted to do something else. And I don't know. I take I take very important decisions in my life very whimsically. I don't regret them, but I actually take a decision and I stick to them. I try to stick to them, and I don't have any regrets for them actually. So I kind of suddenly I decided, no, I don't want to continue with architecture anymore. I want to do something else. So I got enrolled myself into a BBA course, business administration course. Again, I found that to be extremely boring. And I was actually looking for something that would be my calling in life, which I was basically looking for it, fishing for it all over the place, and I couldn't find it. And I was doing obviously, yeah, I was doing my part-time job. I got a part-time job in BBC Bengali service in London, and somehow I don't know why that fascinated me. That interested me so much because we were getting news from all over the world every single day, and we were talking to people all over the world for any news, for anything.
mm,
And again, that excitement factor really worked for me because I actually didn't know. I went to work every day. I didn't know what I would be working on that day. I went to the bush house, I went to my desk, sat on my desk, switched on my computer, and I didn't know what news would show up on my computer screen, what was happening in the world. Different things are happening every day. So that excited me a lot. That this is not one of
mm,
those mundane jobs that you go to your office, you do the same thing and blah blah blah. So that excited me a lot. And I always I it's been like, I don't know, I mean, I didn't know this. I didn't know that I had this trait in me, that I always liked meeting new people. I always liked to make new friends, talk to them, find out about them, their lives, and everything. I've had so many friends in London. I'm not even in touch with them anymore, but when I met them, I made them my friends. I really enjoyed that time because there were people. London is such a cosmopolitan city. There were people from all over the world, and also especially in a place like BBC, where, like, people from every
mm.
corner of the world actually go there to
Yeah.
work. So it was extremely exciting. So when I finished my studies and decided to come back to Dhaka, I actually didn't know what I wanted to do at that time. I mean, totally clueless. And I knew for sure that I didn't want to get a regular 9 to 5 job. That much I knew, but I didn't know what else I could do or should do. wanted to do. And I was very lucky that suddenly BBC, I came back, and a few months later, BBC offered me this job. They said that they were gonna Dhaka did not have a proper bureau office until 1996. Although BBC and Voice of America, both these news organizations have been a very, very influential and powerful media in Bangladesh, because we did not have any private new TV channels until about 1999. We had to rely on the national radio and television channels until then. And obviously, you know what happens in the national radio and TV channels. You never get the real news or the full news. So people of Bangladesh heavily depended on the news on BBC. And also BBC played a huge part in motivating people, or even like giving people the right news or proper news during the Liberation War in 1971. BBC was like, even, there is a place called BBC Bazaar in Bangladesh, because that area became so popular during the war. I think it's in somewhere in Faridpur. I can't remember the name of the place right now exactly, because only one person used to own a radio, transistor radio, at that time in that village. So that person would come to the local bazaar area at 7 p.m. every day, switch on the radio. The whole village would gather around the radio and hear the news. So over the period of time, that area became to be known as BBC Bazaar. That much of influence BBC has. Even the various governments actually took decisions on the basis of what people said on BBC. It was that important. Anyway, so I thought it was a great opportunity. Why not? I had never ever worked in Bangladesh as a journalist. So I got scared, but I was like, okay, let's try it. Never thought that it would be so difficult. But anyway, I kind of started to get my footing in the industry, in the journalism thing. And I became a correspondent for the Bengali section as well as the South Asian region in English service for about 12 years. So that period actually totally changed my perception about my country, because I was actually not here when I was growing up. I left Bangladesh when I was like 19 years old, and I came back when I was 27. So the whole period of this army rule and the transition from army rule to a democratic rule, I missed it all. I didn't actually see it. And I traveled the whole country for BBC. I had to go to the nooks and corners of the country to get news, to talk to people, for various stories. And I was so surprised to see that the people of Bangladesh have no expectations. They're like, they're so hardworking. They're so honest. They have so much perseverance. All they actually think about is their family. As long as they can bring some food for their family, they're okay with it. They're the happiest people in the world. They don't want anything more than that. I'm talking about the people in the grassroots level. And here we are in the city, the so-called educated middle class or upper middle class. We are always striving for more and more and more. And those people are so happy with whatever they have. And that kind of changed my whole perception to the whole thing about my own country. Instead of having a very superficial approach to life, I decided to have a real approach to my life. And I decided to do something about it. And I kind of said that, maybe BBC, okay, I did it. Again, that boredom thing crept in after a while. I actually didn't want to work there anymore. So I started looking for jobs elsewhere, and I joined the Daily Star. As you said, that it's a highly circulated, the largest circulated English daily in Bangladesh. That's it. I'm talking too much, I know, but anyway.
No, it's a very interesting story. All right. So coming back to your films, I have watched few of your telefilms when I was in Dhaka. I also kind
Mhm.
of caught some glimpses in YouTube of some of the movies. Most of your movies are in
Yeah.
YouTube. I found. Yeah. So,
Mhm.
who's your inspiration? Who is your favorite film personality, globally or in your country or whatever? Anybody like that you take inspiration from?
Well, I never had any particular person who I sort of liked very much. It's always been the work that they have done that inspired me or impressed me, rather than the person doing it.
It is the
You
art
know,
rather than the artist.
exactly. I wouldn't name them, but there are so many highly acclaimed film directors who made really trashy movies. you
Yes,
know uh,
I agree. Yes.
so
Yeah.
so that's why there's the as I said, when I was growing up, when I was in my teens, in Chittagong, I was living there, and my hometown, we used
Mm.
to watch a lot of Indian movies. That's when the VCR, the video cassette recorder generation, we call ourselves, in the early 80s. So we started, there were very few English movies we used to get in those days. Lots of Hindi and Bengali movies we used to get from India. And obviously the local Bangladeshi movies were there too. There were two directors who inspired me a lot. Because, I was telling you that I always like the real people. I always liked to see the real stories of people, rather than, obviously, I enjoyed watching the commercial masala movies of, Amitabh Bachchan, Mithun Chakraborty, blah, blah, blah. But I was always fascinated by the movies made by Mahesh Bhatt, Rishikesh Mukherjee in those days, Bimal
Mm.
Roy in the 60s. And also there was another director, Bengali director, he used to make Hindi movies, Basu Chatterjee.
Mm.
They were so real. And
Mm.
I always felt like, I never got bored of those movies. I used to watch them over and over again. you know
Yeah.
and they never casted any big stars in their movies, because it was always the story that was the star in their
Mm.
movies, not the person who
Mm.
are actually playing the roles, not the
Yeah.
actors who were the stars. It was always the story that was the star in their movies. And
Mm.
when I started making TV fictions, I always emphasized on the story. I always, if a story did not excite me enough, I didn't make it. It has to be something that I have to feel like, it's something that has to, uh, that story has to approach me as well, instead of me approaching it in a way. I had to, there have been so many stories that people thought that fantastic, why aren't you doing it, let's
Mm.
get down and do it, and blah blah blah. But something was missing, probably. It has to click
Mm.
in your mind, and it
Mm.
didn't. So it
Okay.
has always been this story that so that's why there have been a lot of directors. There was obviously Ridley Scott in Hollywood, who is excellent, because I don't actually, I somehow don't name Hollywood directors as my favorites or somebody I like a lot, because simply because I after getting into this profession, I realized that how lucky these people are, filmmakers in the West. I mean, we have nothing. We no budget, no money, no cinema halls, no proper projections, no technical facilities. But still, we're not doing bad, are we? We're actually making some
Mm.
really good stuff in this part of the
Yeah.
world.
Yeah.
And those people have
Yeah.
everything. So, I don't really
Mm.
consider them, or, think of them as one of my favorites. Yeah, obviously, I watch their movies, a lot of movies. But yeah, I always take people, the name of the directors from this part of the world, as some people who inspired me. I would say that.
Okay. So I saw your tribute that you wrote about Rishi Kapoor, when he passed.
Uh,
And
uh,
I thought it was very interesting because what you wrote is kind of also similar to, because I was also growing up at the same time. Of course, I was not wearing the spectacles like he was because it was more of a men's thing than
Men
women's. But
thing, yeah.
yeah, but I really like the way you wrote it. It almost felt like I'm also thinking in the same way. So if you have somebody you want to cast from Indian film industry in one of your movies, who that person would be?
Oh, God. A lot of them, a lot of them. And also, I actually wrote something in that status about, that post I wrote on Rishi Kapoor, that I was always fascinated by the underdogs in my
Mm.
life, in every
Yeah.
sector, not just
Mm.
movies or in this profession or this industry, in every sector. So I would again take the name. I actually watched this movie called Kamiyab yesterday. It
Okay.
was the main role was done by Sanjay Mishra, one of the fantastic actors.
Mm.
Very underrated. Who actually gets small bits and pieces of roles. And that film was actually about the character actors in the Bombay film industry who have
Yeah.
been a prominent feature since the
Mm.
inception of movies in India, since the start of the movies in India. But if you ask today's generation, they know the faces. But if you ask them their names, they wouldn't be able to tell you the name of these actors. So it was actually about those actors. But anyway, there was this woman who played the role of Sanjay Mishra's daughter. Her name is, then I didn't know who she was. This is the first movie I saw of her. Or maybe I did see her before in some other movies, but I didn't know who she was. But this one, she had a much bigger role, very important role. And she had only two scenes which she could actually call her own. She could actually show that how good an actor she is. And she was just amazingly good in those two scenes. And after watching the movie, I started Googling, the cast names of the movie, and her name is Sarika Singh. And I had no idea who she was. And then I did some research, and I found out that she was actually a TV journalist. She was a TV news host earlier. She used to work for BBC and some other news channels, BBC Hindi, that is, in India, and some other news channels. And I was just amazed. There are so many good actors,
Mm.
you know, around you, and you just have to find that person. So, and at the moment, after watching Kamyab, I would love to work with Sarika Singh.
Okay.
And if
Great.
you think about it, there is another actor, a recent actor, which obviously he's become very commercial. You can't really help it, the what the trap of stardom actually sort of makes
Mm-hmm.
all the differences. But when he wasn't a star, I saw his movie, and I saw quite a few of his movies which some of his diehard fans wouldn't even know. Obviously everybody knows about Masan, the famous movie Masan, but he actually did some other movies. There was another movie called Love Per Square Feet. It was a
Mm.
Netflix movie, and Vicky Kaushal. I saw him first in that movie, Love Per Square Feet.
Yeah.
He's very good. He's very good.
Yeah. Now
And
he's
in
a
earlier
big
days,
star.
I in
Yeah.
earlier days, I was a big fan of Kumar Gaurav.
Oh,
I don't know
okay. Me
why.
too. Me too.
I don't know why.
Okay.
Again, another underdog who actually did not get. Did you watch that movie called Naam?
Yes, I did. Yes.
Directed by Mahesh Bhatt.
Yes.
Everybody was going mad over Sanjay Dutt, how good he
Yes.
was, and blah blah blah. But I found Kumar Gaurav was thousand times better than Sanjay Dutt in that movie. But nobody talked about him. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
this,
I agree
yeah.
with that
Hmm.
observation. Yes, correct. Yeah, he was also my favorite. I remember I was visiting
Okay.
Bombay and I was staying
And
with
among
my
actresses,
aunt.
okay, Acha, and
I'm sorry.
now you said your aunt.
Yeah, so I was staying with my aunt in Bombay. I was very young. I was like in my sixth standard, and she asked me.
Okay,
She
okay.
asked me, "You are in Bombay, so who is your favorite, actor?" And those days, we were not allowed to watch a lot of movies at home. So I
Mm.
could only think of Kumar Gaurav because I had seen love story posters
Love
on the wall. I
story.
did not seen the movie,
Okay,
okay, but
okay.
I didn't
Uh-huh.
want to, like look like fool, not even know one person name in those days. So I said Kumar Gaurav, and then later on, when I like came back home and I got hold of some DVDs, sorry VCRs and stuff like that, I could watch him.
Mhm.
Yeah, so yeah. All right. So, yeah. So, tell me something about your tea habit. You said you only drink tea twice a day, right?
Twice a day. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Any
This
specific kind of tea that you like, or how is that?
No, not really. I mean, as I said, I mean, it's again another childhood habit that I have. I used to, I never had breakfast in my school days. I
Mhm.
used to wake up very late in the morning, and I just like my school was only 5 minutes away from home, so it would start at 8 o'clock, and the gate would be closed at 7:55. So we would have to cross the gate by before 7:55 or by 7:55, and I would wake up at 7:30 or 7:35 in the morning from my bed, and all I could drink was a cup of tea with a biscuit and then run. So I
Mm.
never got into that habit of having a proper breakfast and blah blah blah. So that was, and I somehow I started enjoying my morning tea since
Mm.
I was like 10, 12 years old. And I enjoyed it so much that I started making the tea for myself when I was only 11, 12 years old. And I still have that habit. I still make my own tea in the morning. I still make my own tea in the afternoon. I don't like other people making tea for me. I mean, even if it's the best in the world, even when I go out to a coffee shop and something, I don't order tea. I only order coffee or even some cold
Mm.
drink. No tea. The tea has to be made by me.
Made your way. Yeah. Okay.
And as I said, there was no fascination because I did not actually, I was never interested in the different kinds of tea or different flavors of tea at that time. Although I do remember that my father, who was a lawyer, and he was the legal advisor or legal counselor for James Finlay. Whether you know about them or not, James Finlay used to own the largest area of tea gardens in Bangladesh once upon a time. In starting from the 20s, 30s, they started buying the tea gardens in the Sylhet region
Mm.
mainly in the 30s, probably late 30s, and they kind of bought almost the whole country in the sense of wherever there was a tea garden. And as I said, my father was their legal counsel, and we used to get the tea leaves, the fresh tea leaves. They used to have those tea chests, the small wooden boxes
Yeah.
where the
Yes.
tea leaves would be inside
Yeah.
them in a foiled paper, in a
Yes.
foiled
Yes.
bag. Inside the tea chest, there used to be a
Yeah.
foil, a bag of
Yes.
foils, a silver foil, and the tea leaves
Yeah.
would be there. We used to get them. I remember that. They
Yeah.
used to send them to our house, and those were like freshly brewed tea, as you can call them. As I don't know the proper language, and yeah. So what I can actually tell you, what I actually started to taste was how do I put it? I know which is a good tea and which is not a good tea. I don't know what tea that is, what flavor, or
Okay.
is it Darjeeling, Assam, or I don't know wherever that came
Uh,
from, or Sylhet, but I can actually tell you if it's a
uh,
good tea or a bad tea, because my taste bud actually developed from that time when
uh,
we used to get all those really good quality tea leaves from James Finlay. And Finlay tea is still actually the highest
yes.
selling tea brands in
Yeah.
Bangladesh.
In
The
India,
Indian
also,
tea.
Finlay had some collaboration with the Tata Tea.
Okay,
Some
yeah.
it's not now. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
Great.
So
So when I
and
visit Bangladesh next time, we will exchange notes
yeah,
on
yeah,
tea.
definitely. I actually, when I was working for the BBC, they actually have this tea auction once every week in
Mm.
Chittagong, and I
Mm.
actually did a story on that once. I was
Oh,
really surprised that how do you auction tea? How does it happen? I was very interested, so
yeah.
I actually went there once, and it was quite interesting to see how
Mm.
people, so many different kind of tea, and the aroma in that room was amazing. So many
Yes.
different flavors was actually there right in front of you, and people were actually bidding prices
Yeah.
one after another. It was really nice, yeah.
So these days there is e-auction of tea that happens in Calcutta.
Ah, e-auctions. I'm not a very, you have to sort of, there are certain things you have to have a physical connection with them,
Yeah, of course, the
right?
tasting, etc., has to
Ah,
happen. Like,
ah,
have to
ah,
taste the tea and
mm,
etc. But
mm.
now that the last mile of auction happens at e-auction. And some gardens are well known that coming from this particular garden, the tea will have this kind of quality, something like that. Anyway, so we are at the last segment of that talk. So I'm going to ask you some quick questions and you will answer me quickly on those things.
Okay.
What is your favorite city?
London. I lived there for 9 years, and I spent the best time of my life there, and it will always be my favorite city.
Okay. What is your favorite holiday destination?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe London again. It's just I miss the place because I have been back for a long time, almost like 7-8 years now. I miss that place, and it's kind of as I said, it's a fascination. I lived there, and whenever I actually watch a movie that is based in London, the movie can be of any language, doesn't matter. If it's based in London, I will definitely watch it, and I'll try to find it. Oh, that's a place I know. I've been to that place. I've been to that road, and blah blah blah. So yeah, London again.
Okay. Now, this next question is based on my understanding about the kind of movies you do. So I'm going to start a sentence and you have to finish it.
Oh God.
Relationships are like?
What? Sorry, I missed it.
Relationships are like? Complete the sentence.
Compromises.
Okay. Bangladesh and India are?
Neighbors.
That is the saddest answer you can give. No.
Yeah, they are neighbors, and yeah. But I love India too, but obviously, I mean, I've been to India.
I mean, the amount of time you visit India.
I know. I don't think I'll ever be to any other country, than India. I mean, I visit India at least 3 to 4 times a year. So it's again, I didn't call that a favorite holiday place, although it is one of my favorite holiday cities, but it's not actually a sort of holiday city anymore. It's a place that we go meet friends, because there's so many friends and relatives we have in Kolkata.
Watch a lot of movies. I know what you do there.
Exactly. Yeah. So you can actually sort of like relax there. Forget about everything else and relax. That's the kind of things that we do. Yeah.
And okay, journalism or movie making?
Oh, definitely movie making now. Because I actually, I was telling you earlier that I was actually looking for my true calling, and I found it. Now, I mean, this is probably I should have done from the beginning. I should not have studied architecture. I should not have worked in the BBC. I should not have worked as a journalist for 15 years of my life. I should not have done all the other things that I have done in my life. So that, whatever I'm doing now, I could have done earlier, and maybe I could be a much better filmmaker by now. I'm still learning. It's not that I'm 52 now. I actually started my career as a filmmaker when I was 40. When by 40, people actually have made their best movie in their career. And I started at 40. So, and as I said, I don't have any regrets in life, but yeah, this is something that my true calling. I really enjoy what I do now.
That is so nice to know. Great. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time. And it was such a wonderful, talking to you. Wishing you make a lot more movies, which makes you happy and everybody else. All the best. Stay safe.
Thank you. Thank you again. Thank you to you, Susmita.
Yeah, bye.